Hello and welcome to the Marketing Maven and More podcast. We're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of marketing and get real about the highs and lows of running a business. I'm your host, Shariq, and I'm ready to spark conversations that matter to you. So let's get started and make some magic happen together. So today we're talking about harnessing hyperfocus, turning ADHD into your business superpower. And I'm so happy to have my first guest, Ms. Ashley Diana of EXO Management. Hi, Ashley, and welcome.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So before we dive in, just want to give you a second just to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
I I should have a script for this already. I hate this question. It's always like, I don't know where to start. But
Yeah.
hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Diana. I am the founder and brand strategist here at EXO Marketing Agency. We're a digital marketing agency that helps brands go from confusion to clarity on all things marketing. I've been in the industry about marketing and sales about 10 or 11 years. I've had the agency about 4 years. So we're doing good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What else? All things. I'm a mom of two living here in Chicago, born and raised. And yeah, my spare time, I like to take long walks on the beach.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good thing. That is an awesome thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we are so proud to get our new season kicked off, and we're just happy to have some great conversations that we're going to be having with our guests. And today we're talking about something that's very prevalent. We've had a conversation about this, and that is ADHD. So many women I read about are being diagnosed later in life. Now,
Mhm.
with children, those of us who have children, I have three sons myself, and it's something that, you look at with your child, but you don't think about it. Maybe they got it from you.
Yep.
Maybe that's where, they got that from because a lot of our children are presenting with this. So
Mhm.
just before we get started, just want to throw out some quick stats about ADHD and just the prevalence in adults. It says 4.4% of adults have ADHD, which is a lot, but less than 20% of them seek treatment. Okay.
Mhm.
People with ADHD are three times more likely to start their own business compared to those who do not have it. Okay. So that means that they're more risk takers and it gives them a greater opportunity for innovation. And finally, adults with ADHD are 18 times more likely to be disciplined at work and are 60% more likely to lose their jobs due to difficulties in organization and time management. So for those of you who are working in the corporate space, or if you're a business owner who used to work in a corporate space, this may sound a little bit familiar to you. Okay, so just want to give you some little stats to kind of go off of before we get into our conversation. So we often look at ADHD as a challenge, right? But with everything that we go through, there's always a way to flip it around to our advantage, right? So we're going to flip that script today. So my first question for you is, how do you believe ADHD can be harnessed as a superpower in running a business?
That is a great question to start with because I did not initially think that this would be something that is going to help my business. And
Yeah.
just for reference, I actually was diagnosed late stage. Obviously, I'm 30. Diagnosed at the beginning of this year. So it
Mhm.
had been something that I had dealt with for decades and just could not figure out, no matter how interested I'd be into something, or just no matter how talented I know that I am, I'm like, why can't I focus? Why
Right.
can't I do? And this isn't just in business. It was, my day-to-day life, like
Mhm.
being a mom and getting the kids in and out the house and, not waiting till the last minute to do things. So,
Mhm.
and just to give you, I'm sure you're familiar, but just to anyone who isn't familiar with ADHD, what it does is it disrupts your executive function. So that's a part of your brain that like allows you to prioritize tasks, multitask,
Yes,
meet
all the things we
deadlines,
need. Yes.
literally managing your day-to-day life. ADHD disrupts that. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, you have to wear multiple hats. And so I had known for a while, obviously, that I'm like, yeah, something's there.
Mhm.
But when it came to me on the chart to scale my business, having to now manage a team in my life and my kids'
Yeah.
life, I'm like, okay, things are not happening. It's very overwhelming and difficult. It's emotional. Let me just see,
Right.
and maybe it's just all in my head. And so of course I got my diagnoses, and initially it was because of course they recommend medication as
Mm-hmm.
always. And I was
Yeah.
like, I just could not imagine having to rely on a medication to help me get things done. And I had looked at it as a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I had looked into just other ways to cope with, so not only just medication, but meditation and things of that nature,
Right.
I began to come to terms with, okay, this is just, it's not a disease, it's not an issue, it's not a negative thing, it's just a different, I think
Yeah.
different, and
It's
that's
manageable.
okay.
Yeah.
It's manageable. So entrepreneurs, we're problem solvers. And what I think that the way in which I'm able to harness this as a superpower, it allows me to think in ways that are like unconventional for most people. So those times I can even give you specifically when it comes to like creating strategies, or when
Yes.
I'm having my brainstorming sessions, whether it be with a team or clients, you have
Mhm.
this constant like flow of ideas and curiosity. And it's like the ADHD allows you to drive that innovation. And
Right.
so it allows for you to be able to think about things in a more creative way.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you as an entrepreneur, as you said before, I can take risks with no problem. I don't have a problem taking a
Yeah.
risk. And that might be that part of my brain that's cut off most times to not allow me to think logically. And it may be challenged to stay focused. I figured out different ways to cope with that. But when I am able to harness that hyper focus, I
Mm-hmm.
will say that that is like my superpower. It allows me to take like just advantage of so many things. I'm able to multitask in ways that I hadn't been before.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I think that the ADHD overall just gives me the ability to just approach problems in different angles than most.
That's awesome because you touched on like finding ways to focus.
Mhm.
That's one of the biggest things that for me is like, because I'm that person who I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get this done, and then I see something over here,
Yeah.
I see some laundry or I
Yeah.
see whatever because I work from home,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you see all these things and you're so easily distracted. Your phone can ring, or and I, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm busy. I'm not busy. Like no,
Every
you have
time.
work to do.
You actually are very busy.
Exactly. You have things to do. So it's something that I've started to like try more of a holistic approach to help me. So
Okay.
like I start, with exercise, and I take my magnesium at night, and I try, really beef up on like omega-3s and
Okay.
things like that. Cause I'm that person that will try just about every holistic essential oil or something like that before I go to pharmaceutical route.
Mhm.
So that's something that I like to do is to try to see if there's a natural way to do it because like you, I'm managing a team, multiple clients. I sit on boards, I have course, I have 3 boys and all of their
I have
activities.
three
So
boys. My goodness.
it's like 3 teenagers at that. So
Woo.
there's constantly a mom, I need this, and mom, I need that in the middle of work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's always something going on. The other day my son was like, he's at Subway and I have green light cards for them. So Apple like takes the apps and they
Yes.
deactivate it, you have to re-upload it. And he's like, well, I need
Yes.
it now, I'm at the register. I'm like, oh my gosh, my
So I have
child.
to now cut this function off,
So
cut the other
yeah,
one
and
on.
and I was in the middle of working and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this done? So it's just something that's constantly happening, and that
Yeah.
ADHD just kind of complicates that.
Yeah.
So just looking at different like holistic ways to kind of deal with it. Or even if you do pharmaceutical, that's totally your personal choice,
Yeah.
whatever you and your doctor decide. That's just my way of trying to do it, more of keeping in good diet and exercise, working out
Yeah.
and things like that. So let's get on to the next one. Can you share like a personal story about how you've used your ADHD traits, like maybe your hyper focus, to thrive and to not only thrive, but also to approach marketing creatively or effectively? Because we're both marketers. So
Mhm.
that it requires us both to constantly be thinking about obviously the latest trends, what's going on, our clients, what do they need, and things like that. So I'll give you the floor.
And you were saying, I'm sorry, repeat the
Oh,
question. A,
sure.
a time that I've
Yeah,
used the traits, right?
right. A personal story of how you've used your ADHD traits, like hyperfocus, for example,
Mhm.
to not only thrive into business, but also to approach marketing more creatively and effectively.
I mean, every day, right?
Yeah, that's our everyday lives, right?
I guess if we're thinking business, or you said personal, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
business is my
Yeah,
personal story.
it all, sometimes it will all merge together. So that's
It's
fine.
all the time. But even if I'm thinking of
Yeah.
stuff with like my daughter for little projects and stuff that she has to do. And I guess I can bring that up then if we're thinking personal.
Yeah.
Um, so my daughter's a Taurus. I don't know if you're into the signs, but she's very headstrong. But she's
Mhm.
absolutely driven and moved by creativity and
Okay.
music. And I think that in her helps
Mm-hmm.
my ADHD absolutely, because there could be times where I'm in a state of hyper focus, right? There's always that
Mm-hmm.
one thing that you're just like fixated on.
Right.
Um, it's just like the time disappears.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm able to be in those moments with her and she's like in a creative state, whether we're just trying to think of different activities or drawings or I can really pull into my imagination when I'm in that state of hyper focus when I'm with my daughter. And
Yeah.
so it's like I'll have 5 or 6 different ideas popping up simultaneously, of course.
Yeah.
And now that I know what my diagnosis is, it's like I don't result to being overwhelmed anymore. Like I just start to kind of connect those pieces. I let my brain be hyper focused on the things that it wants, because it allows me to honestly immerse with her with like hours of just like fun and creativity,
Mhm.
just
Right.
imagination. We're building stories, and
Mhm.
it may not make sense, but it's allowing me to be creative. And that's the one thing with my ADHD that I always lean on to, is a creativeness. Like it's a flow of state where
Mhm.
everything is just like aligning.
Right.
And it allows for her to really get this part of mom that she doesn't get to get every single day, because I'm behind the computer, I'm in the office.
Right.
So when I'm in those hyper focused states, a lot of times I will go to my kids like, all right, what are we gonna do? Let's go outside, let's kick a
Yeah.
ball, let's go draw, because I know
Right.
that in that moment I'm probably not able to focus on some of the most, strategic tasks. And I would also say
Exactly.
that too, when those different traits come out, I
Mm-hmm.
assign them to different parts of my business. So it's
Mm.
like, okay, if I know that I'm in this state, I can't do, admin tasks, or I can't even look at Asana right now. It's not going to work.
Yes.
So let
Yeah.
me brainstorm some creative ideas for my next meeting with my client.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that those are some ways in which it allows me to thrive
Mhm.
creatively.
And it's interesting because it's all about being more self-aware of knowing
Oh
what you
yeah.
can do and what you can accomplish. Like I
Yeah.
know I can't go in and look over content right now. My mind is not there. But I can look over some graphics. I can look at some strategy and things like
Mhm.
that. It's just a matter of knowing yourself. And
Yep.
the more you know about, ADHD and how it's kind of manifesting itself in you, you can better, like you said, delegate it to different tasks.
Yep.
You're not behind, you're still being productive,
Exactly.
and like I find a lot of times when, I take a break to go, if I go like if they're in swim practice or something like that, that kind of gives me a chance to kind of recharge,
Hmm.
stepping away and just
Yep.
giving my brain a break for a second just to focus on what they're doing. Or if I say, hey, let's go to the movies or whatever we do, that kind of gives you a chance to kind of step back. And then when you come back, you have all these great ideas flowing
Hmm.
and you're able to work and get things done.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a great way of kind of using something that's kind of perceived in a negative way, but taking it and
Mhm.
flipping it around and making it more positive. So that's awesome.
Yep. Yep. And I love that you say that too. It allows you to just kind of take a break.
Yeah.
I think that is a major thing. And I know we're going to get into tips and stuff like that, but that just brought up that major just mindset shift that I had to have with myself this year. It's like like your brain, specifically your ADHD brain, your
Yeah.
neurodivergent brain is going a million miles an hour on top of your entrepreneur brain, on top of your mommy brain, on top of the wife brain. It's like there's so many things that we think about
Yeah.
and make so many decisions every day,
Mhm.
that knowing that you have this and this different way of thinking and brain chemicals, allow yourself to just submerge in whatever part of the brain is functioning at that moment. And I was watching there was an interview with a doctor. I cannot for the life of me remember her name. I'll probably remember as soon as we get off the call, but I
Yeah,
forget
that's
her
how it
name.
happens. Right?
But she is a psychiatrist. She has ADHD and she specifically diagnoses ADHD. So I love her page. Like that's my go-to. And she had made the point of, so often ADHDers are like, I need to figure out a way to focus. Whereas those moments where you just let your brain go blank or just kind of follow the dots of whatever you're thinking, she's like,
Right.
that allows your brain to just relax and you come
Hmm.
back feeling more creative. And so just having those like mindless days of just like,
Right.
I'm just not gonna, I don't care, whatever, we're gonna go with the flow and we're gonna think how we
Yeah.
think. And it allows you to, relax and be more creative. So I absolutely
Mhm.
agree with that.
Because that kind of reminds me of like having like a break day, those days
Hmm.
that like for me, Sunday's my Sabbath, so I don't do any work.
Yes.
And I find that even though I'm like, I may be on Facebook and I'm like, okay, I'm not looking at this post because I have a lot of business owners who are my Facebook friends and they're talking business 24/7.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, wait,
Okay,
I
I'm not
gotta
gonna
post.
read this. I'm not gonna
Yep.
read this, but I'm like, oh,
Yep.
that's a good idea. But I'm like,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
no, brain, take a break. I find that when I'm not doing any work, not at my desk on that day, so much comes to me. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
glad that you made that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Because
we
it's,
all
I
need
think,
that.
yeah. And
Mhm.
our brains aren't registered and wired for us to
Yeah.
sit behind computers and,
Yeah.
do logistic tasks every day, which is, I absolutely love my executive assistant
Oh, yeah.
because, honey, I can't,
Mhm.
I don't even have the capacity to do this. Please help.
Yes, we all need an assistant.
Oh,
Oh,
for
goodness.
sure.
Delegation is key.
It
Yes.
is. It is. And that could be a struggle too sometimes. I'm sure, as you know,
Yes. Oh,
delegate.
yes. Yeah. That's a whole other subject, but yes, it
It is.
helps in terms of someone else, another brain, another set of eyes
Mhm.
who can look over the same work and give you some great insight into things and
Yep.
kind of help you kind of push you along. So that's really
Yep.
great.
Yep. This
All
is
right. So
true.
our final question is going to talk about resilience. So what's one practical tip that would give other business owners who have ADHD a tip that can help them leverage their unique strengths and stay resilient in the face of challenges? So we're talking about somebody who's maybe newly diagnosed or
Mhm.
someone who's probably wondering, do I have this? I seem to, have these symptoms and probably after listening to us and this podcast,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I need to call my doctor. No, what are some practical tips that you may have for someone like that?
Well, first I'll say since 2020 and maybe even before, like I do
Mhm.
think that there is so much overstimulation in
Oh
this
gosh, yes.
areas for us to not be focused. So I'm sure there is a little bit of neurodivergent tendencies in everyone since
Right.
2020. So don't feel
Yeah.
alone. We are all focused or struggling to focus. Okay.
Right, right.
But
Yeah,
one practical tip and something that it's helped me significantly in what I live by now is just my schedule.
yeah.
Um, of course, before I would just kind of put things in a planner and just kind of have my day to day, but I've actually built out a very intensive, maybe a little bit more intensive than most people. I
Yeah.
mean, from timestamps to everything, because
Mhm.
again, with ADHD, especially when you're in specific or certain phases,
Mhm.
you tend to spend too much time on something, or you
Mhm.
over like we don't have a concept of time at all.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm tracking how long it's taking me to do tasks and
Mhm.
focus on that. Knowing the times of days where I'm a little bit more focused than not. I'm creating this weekly schedule where I
Mhm.
have timestamps for everything from, start to
Right.
finish of what I should be focusing on. And the
Mhm.
one thing that's helped me within that structure is to also allow gaps of time for just like something to just not stifle your creativity. Because while
Right.
the schedule will help with your ADHD, it's like you also can feel bored and then you go
Yeah.
off your schedule quite often. So creating a schedule to your advantage, right? That's going to help with your specific traits, but also without stifling your creativity. So allowing breaks, allowing some flexible routines. Like on Wednesdays, I have like my hump day, my midweek check-in where
Mhm.
I have a schedule. If like I'm feeling up to it, these are things that can be doing. But if I need a break, this is your time to take a break.
Right.
I pride myself on taking my lunch breaks. I never used to I kid you not, 11 years. This will be my first year where I actually have a lunch break on my schedule.
That's good.
Like that's
Yeah.
not something I've ever done. But now that I know, right, my brain needs it
Yes.
in
Yes.
order for me to continue. And then also visual tools help.
Yeah.
So my Asana is we live and
Oh,
die by it
yes.
over here. I know people use like Trello and Monday.com, but just like being able to break down those big ideas into like different manageable steps
Right.
it's helpful. Because again, we don't have much of a concept of time. So it's like, we'll have this idea. No, I just need an hour. No, you actually need a week.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
being able to use that visually to break out my workflow,
Mhm.
it helps. So, just any type of system that will allow you to stay on track with a little bit of, know that you need flexibility in your schedule.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone on my team knows it. Like Ashley, she needs some flexibility. She say it's going to be due on this day. Let's give her until the day before to let us actually know.
Right, right. And that's the thing, you're training your team to be, how you all can keep, stay productive and how they
Yeah.
can work with you. So the more they know you and how you work, the better you all can get, things done.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes. So structure is very important. I think just
It
having
is.
that schedule, building those routines is so important because, we are kind of creatures of habit as well.
Mhm.
And especially with us juggling so many different things, it's so helpful in
It
doing that.
is.
And I like how you said you build in those breaks
Yeah.
because a lot of times, we have that hustle hard mentality, that whole mindset of just keep hustling, hustling, but your brains aren't built that way. Our brains aren't built that way to just keep doing it. Mine will literally be like, okay, I'm taking a break. You can go ahead and keep going, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna
my
stop right
body
here,
keep
right?
going, but I'm not doing anything. And I had to learn
Exactly.
that too. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
you're going, but
yeah.
what are you actually doing right now, Ashley? Because you're not doing
Yeah.
anything productive.
Exactly. So it's like you might as well stop and do something like
Yes.
I have my virtual boxing here. I may do something, maybe just listen to some music, make some lunch, because that's my biggest thing with me is that my sister, she was here in July and she's like, when do you eat? And I was like, well,
Oh.
just whenever I get hungry, she's like, you know
Yes.
what time it is?
Yep. Yep.
So I think I'm
Gotta
gonna
find a
try that.
schedule.
I
And
think I'm
that's
gonna try it.
important
Yeah.
too. Eating with
Yes.
ADHD and drinking lots of water.
Oh my gosh. Like,
Drinking lots of water.
yeah, it's 2 o'clock and I haven't had breakfast. Like, wait a minute, stop. It's
Me too.
okay to stop and just go eat and take care of yourself and do those practical things,
Yep. Yep.
So
As
yeah,
we're here
crazy.
talking, right? So when you get off this call, you are going to go eat breakfast.
I
Okay.
am. I
We're
am.
not gonna look at what happened. We're not gonna edit the video. We're gonna
Ex-
take a break and go
Yes,
eat lunch.
I promise I'm going to eat. Yes, because I got fussed at. She was like, no, you need to eat something. This is crazy. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but work is great. Work is important. And that just goes into self-care because
Mhm.
now that we know these things about ourselves, we have to now make sure that we are being obedient to what
Absolutely.
we need to do in order to be healthy and take care of ourselves. Because obviously, like they say, you can't pour from an empty glass.
You cannot.
Take care of anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's all, part of that too. You can say self-care even. So yes. So thank you so much for joining me today, just for having this discussion. I hope that for those
Absolutely.
who are listening to this, if you feel like we're speaking your language, like if you're like, hey, that's me too, just talk to your doctor about that. There's screenings that you can do to find out whether or not you have it. But just know that if you do, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's manageable. And
It
it's
really
something
is.
that, yeah, it's not going to stop you from being successful. We're here, we do this every day. Marketing is something that you use, gosh, so many parts of your brain for
You.
strategy, creativity, innovation, all of it together. And if we can do it, you can do it too.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. I agree to
Absolutely.
that. I love
Yeah.
that you say that too. Like it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Every time we have some type of diagnosis attached to something, it's always like, oh no, I have a problem, or no,
Yeah.
it's you literally just have a different way of thinking. And like
That's
I
it.
said, and we said before, harnessing it as your superpower, because now it's like, now I know what's going on with my brain. Before it was like,
Yeah.
I'm fussing at myself, I'm stressed at myself, I'm upset because I didn't get things done. When in all actuality, it was like, Ashley, your brain is it checked out
Yeah.
back there and you just didn't even know it.
Exactly. We have to give
Knowing
ourselves
those
grace.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, give yourself yes, grace.
Mhm.
Oh my God. That was my word last year. I didn't do too well with it. I might redo it this year, but
Oh, goodness. Yes.
grace was my word. Like grace.
Yeah, but it's just like, look, girl, I know it. I get it. This is how I am. So,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace and
Yes.
just, be able to know that you can get it done. The world will
You
not
can.
come to an end. The work will
It
get
will not.
done. Right. You will get it done.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
agree.
thank you for tuning in to the Marketing Maven and More podcast. I hope this episode is definitely helping enlighten you in terms of your business. We're not just about running a business, we're about the people behind the business. And so we're going to be talking about different topics that affect your life. And, you know, let's face it, as people, everything that happens in our lives pours into our businesses. So why try to talk about just one? Let's go ahead and talk about it all, mention it all, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ashley, Diana, for being with
welcome.
us and just sharing your insight about how you've been able to turn ADHD into your superpower in your business.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It was a pleasure. This is a good and a much needed conversation. So I'm looking forward to the podcast. I'm looking forward to other episodes. This is
Yes.
amazing. The conversations we need to be having.
Exactly. Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. And thank
no
you all for tuning
problem.
in, everyone listening. Just let us know how you feel about it. Leave some comments to us. Give us some feedback on your podcast carrier. We are on all podcast platforms. So just look for us to search for the Marketing Maven and More podcast. And I look forward to hearing your feedback and also hearing your stories as well, how you're able to harness ADHD and turn it into your superpower. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.